Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, Brian, to Environmental Coffee House again. It is wonderful to have you back. I am excited, thrilled. We have a great show, guys. It's just a free form kind of conversation, but Brian provided me with this kick ass presentation that we have, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the fires because everybody is very interested in the Canadian fires and the air quality. So we're going to do a little talking about that. But welcome and take my apologies for last night, guys. I had a little bit of a personal thing, but we're here today. So hi, Bri.
Hi,
Welcome back.
thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Um, and thank you for everybody that's watching, whether you're live or whether you're going to be watching it later at another time. And thanks for anybody for participating. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk.
Yes, and we like hearing you talk. And it was a great time last time. So I just want to quickly say, and then I'm going to shut up, but I'm going to quickly say hi to everybody that's here. Rollin Switch, he's from Northwest Jersey. And But the Truth, and Chris Spavins, you're from Canada. Veg from Canada, Vegematic Deluxe, our sweetheart. Melanie Daniels. Hi, Melanie, and Bila and Kim. Thank you for moderating as always. And yep, everybody's chill. Hi, Hans Osberger. Love you too. Wendy Delise, David. All right, Zalipa, Pranker Squire. Good. We have a great crowd, and I always say it is quality over quantity. So take it away, Brian. What should we start with? The fires? What do you want to start with?
You know
Up
what?
to you.
Where do we start with? Oh my goodness,
Well, talk
there's
about
so
you
much.
again, who
There's
you
there's
are.
so much. There's so much going on, and obviously we couldn't have been here last night, so we're here today. I don't know if anybody else was a little bit all over the place today with the smoke in the air, which, we knew that was going to happen. We expected it over on the East Coast, and a lot of people have been dealing with it on the West Coast or in Central America for a long time. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, now it finally hit us on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, there was, the conversation around it, right? So a lot of us are freaked out about it. And obviously there's air quality concern. And then there's also misinformation. So in New Jersey, I don't know if anybody saw in New Jersey, a certain political party tweeted, Murphy's masks won't protect you from that either. So I just
Oh,
came from another meeting.
God.
I just came from another meeting before this, and the conversation was, greenwashing and false climate solutions, that type of thing.
Hmm.
So forgive me if I'm a little bit all over the place. Maybe it's so I just don't really want to talk about hemp specifically. I'd like to talk about what's really going on as far as
Sure.
politically and what we're seeing. You know, so you're like north of me, so I'm sure you have tons of smoke too, right?
I didn't take any pictures down, but everybody that follows me saw them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It was horrible here. The air quality was horrible. And I was out in my garden yesterday. I had to get finished with what I did for 7 hours. And I had the N95 mask. So I put it on. I did. I used it. And it wasn't bad. And I got my work done, and everything's planted just about in my garden. And I wonder, though, Brian, I was thinking about today, and I didn't get to do the research because I was out today, but what does horrible air quality do to the growing plants and gardens? Besides what it does to the lungs of the animals, what does it do to the plants? They're respirating this air. I didn't get a chance to look it up. If anybody has that information in our chat, let us know, you know.
Well, it affects everything. It's in the plants, it's in the animals that are eating the plants, it's in the air, it's in the water, and then ultimately it's in us, just like anything else. You know, so yeah, I don't know the specifics on that,
Me neither. Me neither.
but it's definitely a concern. But I'm happy that you were wearing your N95 because that actually helps. So there's a little bit of controversy on whether or not the masks are going to do anything for you. And a lot of the masks that you could wear actually aren't doing anything because the dangerous chemicals are still getting through the mask.
Right.
So the N95 has been proven to work. So if you're out in New York or in New Jersey and you're going to be outside for a long time, wear your N95.
And I did.
I wear mine. It helps me with allergies. When I go outside and I'm doing I'm mowing the lawn or I'm cutting the bushes or whatever, I got my mask on, and people probably think I look like a crazy person, but I got allergies, so I can breathe better with the mask on.
Good for you.
And forest fire smoke, wear your N95.
And forest fire smoke is not just, it's got so many compounds in it. I mean, you think about what is in that, what's burning besides just wood. It's not just wood. The particulate matter is full of probably plastic and all kinds of shit. And I'm sorry, but I had to work outside and I did not want to pass out. I have to admit, I got a little dizzy. And I went inside, but for the most part, man, I chugged yesterday. And I had an issue last night, but it wasn't because of what I did yesterday. I had a personal problem, but it's all going to be taken care of. And so I appreciate that you could do this.
Can we share what the number one cause of deforestation is?
Absolutely, share away.
Do you know what it is? It's animal agriculture. So some people are suggesting that some of the forest fires were started intentionally. I don't know. I doubt it, but possibly they were. But there have definitely been forest fires started intentionally for the purpose of clearing the land for animal agriculture, to farm the land for cows, right? And then we know that cows are a big, causing the methane and part of emissions. So forest fires are terrible for everybody because those trees should be there to absorb the carbon out of the atmosphere and keep the soil fertile. So these forest fires, ultimately they're affecting our air quality everywhere. So in New Jersey and in New York, the air quality they've rated it the worst that it could get, which is an F, but it's not worse. It's not the worst that it could possibly get. So we're realizing climate change is real. What it's doing. There was a recent study that showed that 1 out of 5 deaths are related to climate change, whether or not it's breathing in pollutants or, whatever type of climate catastrophe that led to your death or sickness. 1 in 5 deaths.
Oh my God. Well, I have this up, the fire and smoke map, because I thought people would be interested in seeing this all over the country and how you can see. Now, it's showing some in Canada, and Vegematic said it smelled like turpentine, but here down by us, it was really pretty bad. And I'm look at the coast. Look at this. It's awful. And this is just the fire and smoke map it's fire.airnow.gov. It's pretty cool. And where I am, it said unhealthy, but I think it's gone down since this because I don't know. I didn't look outside, but it was pretty bad. Irritates eyes, nose, respiratory system. And I think about the animals, the horses, the Amish horses. And it turns out, Brian, my Amish neighbor came over today and I asked him about the horses and he said they knew nobody was running their horses hard.
Right.
No.
I took my dog out for a walk and, I couldn't put a mask on him, obviously.
No.
So he didn't want to go out there, but I'm like, shit, what do we do?
Right. Right. I don't know what happened to our names.
Well.
Everybody knows. He's Brian. I'm Sandy. All right. So this is New Jersey, and New Jersey had some shit. Look at this. North Central Jersey, 364, whatever the unit is, PM 2.5. It's pretty, look at it. That's pretty bad. New Jersey sucked today. Oh my God. I think you guys were worse than maybe us. I don't know. But this is a cool map. So if anybody wants to go and, if we had time, I would ask you guys. I'd say, hey, who wants to look at where they live? But we don't have time because we have a lot to get to.
Well, anybody is welcome to go and check it out, right?
Yep.
Is there a link or something?
Anybody is welcome. But we have your presentation. So tell me what you'd like to do first.
So let me just talk. I don't know.
Just
So
talk.
since yeah, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I wanna know what's new with you. And like really, every time I watch your shows, you have like doctors and professors and really educated people on, and you have some very specific topics or some very depressing topics sometimes, some deep stuff. So I feel honored to be here that you're willing to have me because I'm just kind of like a
You're willing.
regular. Well,
You're a regular, normal
I'm
one
just
of
a
us.
regular guy. Yeah.
We
Well,
love you.
well, I appreciate it because in this field, I met with a lot of people that went to school for environmentalism or a doctor in something.
Hmm.
And then when I tell them like how I got into it, everybody says to me things like, "Oh, I'm impressed with you or for doing what you do, right?" But that's just kind of their way of saying to me like, "Oh well, you didn't study in this field, you're not a doctor, you're not anything," and
You're a
then I'm just kind
citizen
of like
scientist.
then I'm just kind of like dismissed. At least that's how I feel about it. So what I really want to talk about, what I always want to talk about, is hemp because not enough people are talking about it. So when I was last with you, we talked about hemp and we talked
Oh
about
yeah.
plastic and we talked about different types of connections as far as pollution and emissions. So I guess I kind of wanted to continue from where we were talking or tell you some of the things that I came across the last year.
All
If
right.
that's cool. Not that anybody
It's
remembers,
way
but yeah. Oh,
cool.
can I do like a shout out to like the last season? Throw a year ago because it was like a year ago. There's
Yes.
a lot has changed, right? So I'll tell you what I've been up to, and we'll bring it all together. But feel free to cut me off if I'm talking too much or if I get off topic. Okay.
No, you're
All
not
right.
talking
Good.
too much. This is your show, sweetheart.
Sweet. I
Yes.
appreciate it. So, we were talking about being an advocate or what can you do as a climate activist and what type of action can we have and how depressing everything is. So I like to talk about, I do action as a way to deal with my eco anxiety. It makes me feel as if I'm really doing something. And I think that if we're all doing our part, I think it would make a huge difference. So in my area, there's not a lot of people that are active, or at least I haven't found them. And there's not people that are talking about hemp. And I have some ideas and they don't seem to be implemented. So, I've joined so many different groups just looking for people and just trying to absorb whatever type of information that I can. So I hope that people that are watching the show, I hope you guys do things instead of just, complaining about it on Twitter. Because I know a lot of people that just kind of are in their own little world. And like, we need to see outside of our own little world and what else is going on in the world. So I hope people are doing things. So I joined a bunch of different groups to kind of see like what are people doing. So I joined local
Good.
groups, national groups, trying to like get people working together. So one of the things that I've noticed is we don't see our common enemy. We don't recognize who it is that's out to get us. So one way that I see this is I see some people advocating for solar. I see some people advocating for wind. I see some people advocating for different types of solutions. But we're not getting together, coordinating our efforts, and all speaking out against the fossil fuel industry. So I think we talked
Yep.
about it last time,
Hmm.
how the fossil fuel is invested in everything, and it is a big force on this planet that we don't really see for it, right? So what do I mean when I say that we don't recognize this? They've known about our impact on fossil fuels since at least the
Uh-huh.
60s.
Hmm.
Um, so they tell me that climate change isn't real or that type of thing, or they don't trust the scientists. So now we're in a situation where people don't trust the scientists because we have misinformation out there and we have politicians that are making a profit off of healthcare and different types of things. So now people don't trust the science, right? So but us activists, we don't trust the politicians. Just because you don't trust the science doesn't, or the politicians, doesn't mean that you don't trust the activists. We're all saying the same thing, right? So the fossil fuel industry has known about it since at least the 60s. They, rather than them invest in solutions, they've invested in lobbying, they've invested in spreading misinformation, right? So if you don't believe the scientists, then believe the fossil fuel industry themselves. Go on to www climatefiles.com and see the internal documents from the fossil fuel industry acknowledging climate change, accurately predicting the weather patterns that we were going to see, and making a conscious decision rather than invest in renewable energy to invest in lobbying and invest in misinformation. So we're seeing a lot of this misinformation now. So when you shared the heading, Sandy, for the show, you were said I forget what the heading was, and I was like, oh goodness,
The petrochemical.
But it's really not that far off, right? So
That
my research,
we are owned.
we are owned, right?
And don't forget the Koch brothers.
The Koch brothers. Okay, so 1937, the fossil fuel industry. There's a lot of indication that we don't have the exact checks or we don't have people recorded phone conversations, but there's a lot of information that leads to DuPont. So DuPont is famous, right? DuPont is a corporate partnership with Monsanto. They're famous for Agent Orange, the chemicals during Vietnam, right? So by me, Pompton Lakes, there's a lake that's polluted and there's high cancer. A lot of people have died because of the cancer in Pompton Lakes, and that was DuPont. So this company lobbied our government in 1937 to tax, criminalize cannabis and hemp to the point where they failed and then were criminalized. So in 1940, Ford made a car out of hemp. So a lot of people have a hard time believing that, okay, maybe it's not completely hemp. There's part hemp. You mix the hemp with different materials and you make one part of the car similar to carbon fiber. You can make the structure of the car. You can make the interior of the car, the headliner, the seats. He even made it to run off of a carbon neutral biofuel named hemp, called hempylene. So the first vehicle was made to run on peanut oil. And then soon later it was made to run on hempylene, biofuel. So the petrochemical companies lobbied our government, criminalized cannabis and hemp. Now we're dependent on fossil fuels. We're burning fossil fuel. We developed plastic when we could have been using hemp, right? So cannabis was criminalized. Now I don't know for certain if it was they wanted to criminalize cannabis and hemp was kind of to the side, but there's a lot of industries that were involved in this, right?
Criminalize everything good.
Criminalize everything good, right? So at that point, they basically people were convinced that smoking cannabis was wrong, that this plant should be criminalized and that should be illegal, but it's perfectly fine to frack, burn fuel, and make these forever chemicals or make these materials that aren't going to biodegrade ever, right? So I'll tell you guys a story since, that brings me to something that I'd like to bring up, why I got involved in this. So I worked for an insurance company. This was during the Obama administration, and vehicle manufacturers were required to make vehicles to lower their emissions. So I'm in a class, and the engineer is talking to me about how they started introducing composite materials to make vehicles lighter for the purpose of lowering emissions. So this raised a red flag to me. I raised my hand. I said, wait a minute. Is there any consideration for the environmental impact of all these materials that we're using that aren't going to be biodegradable? He said, no, we don't care about that. We don't care about that. Right, so that was one of the things that got me interested in this, and that's why I know about cars. So since then, I've been advocating for cleaner transportation. Right, how could I influence the transportation vehicle manufacturers, insurance companies? So we could talk about the wildfires, right? So some of you might have heard that in California now, you can no longer get homeowners insurance. You can't get insurance because of wildfires in California. The insurance companies are realizing that they don't want to insure you because they're likely going to lose money because your house is likely going to burn on fire, right? So that it's similar to auto insurance, because this is one of the things that I've been trying to advocate for. Because if you work for an insurance company and there's not a lot of catastrophes, then your insurance company makes good money. So if there's a lot of catastrophes, hail comes down, whatnot, right, the insurance company loses money. So when I worked for an insurance company, we were concerned about how many catastrophes there was going to be and if it was going to affect our bottom line, right? So auto insurance are no longer as profitable because of the catastrophes. So um, auto insurance companies years ago, they started the National Institute of Highway Safety.
Yeah.
They did this so that they could influence vehicle manufacturers to make cars safer, right? So there would be less deaths. But ultimately, it was to save the insurance company money. So I've been advocating for insurance companies, similar to how they founded the National Institute of Highway Safety, to use their influence with the vehicle manufacturers to make the vehicles more environmentally friendly overall. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the idea. So right now, what I'm wondering is when insurance companies are going to learn that they're invested in climate change, just like everybody that they're insuring.
Yeah,
Right?
well,
So
I think they're getting there.
I think so too. So that's why I became a climate activist when I realized that it makes no sense to save my money for me to retire when I'm 65 so then I could then spend that money and live happily ever after. That's not going to happen. I'm most likely going to die before I'm 65 because of some type of climate related event or pollution. And scientists are saying, right, the ice caps are melting faster than we expected, and we're seeing now what we thought we were going to see in 2070. So every time they go back to see what's going on, it's always worse, right? I mean, yeah, maybe Al Gore was wrong and Florida's not underwater yet, but it's worse. It's happening. Like, we can't, just because it turns out that because Al Gore has a mansion, climate change is still real. That wasn't enough of a
That's what they
reason to
want to
vote for
bring up.
Bush, right? The weapons of mass destruction weren't found, and 9/11, what was the Patriot Act has been renewed, and the powers that the government got, they still have. So that was all a lie. So we continue, right? So I don't know if anybody has seen. I like to shut out Youth versus Gov and the People versus Fossil Fuels. So I was talking about becoming an activist. I took my money out of Vanguard. So I got its group Fix My Funds or Stop the Pipeline, right? So if you're investing your money and your money's going to fossil fuels, call your bank. Take your money out of your bank. Take your money out of your 401k. Make sure, right, I opened up an account and I made sure that they're investing in renewable energy rather than worrying about, so I had an account and I was worried what's going to happen with the market. Now I got another account that's investing in renewable energy. I couldn't be happier with it. So hopefully if anybody wants to sign up for Fix My Funds or Stop the Pipeline, the People versus Fossil Fuels. Now, if you
Can
pay
we
attention,
put that in the show notes? You'll give me
yeah,
the
absolutely,
links.
because
Okay.
hopefully everybody should watch Youth vs. Gov. So I don't know during
Okay.
COVID if anybody was watching documentaries, but if you watch Youth vs. Gov, you'll see the narrative as far as how our government and the media would talk about climate change in the 60s. Every president since Nixon, with the exception of Reagan, because Reagan denied climate change all out, and then Donald Trump's called it a Chinese hoax, right? I think that's what he said.
God.
Everybody else has acknowledged it's real, acknowledged the urgency that we need to take action, said that they were going to take action, and then did the exact opposite. Every single one of them is a complete shit. Every single president that we've had is a complete piece of shit. So why is Biden a complete piece of shit, right? Because he said he was going to end fossil fuels. He wasn't going to allow any new pipelines, and they just snuck in the MVP pipeline in the budget. They're talking about this whole made up thing, the debt, right? And isn't it my understanding the debt is just the amount of money that they spend? It doesn't mean shit, right? So they're more concerned about the debt, and we have an actual climate emergency.
Absolutely.
Right? The climate emergency is real life. The debt is that's a man-made bullshit. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm so worried about the debt, right? And they sneak in this pipeline. So that's why.
Yep.
Oh, is that
we banged that in.
Who gets it, Biden or Manchin? I kind of want to give
Well,
it to
the
Manchin.
flush, we did a flush. We could do another flush. They all get the flush.
They all get the flush.
That was the gong. That was the gong. That was the gong saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we have the boo. about
So I thought it was
Biden.
I thought you had like a something of the day or whatever, because
Oh, we
definitely
do. We have
So
the
okay,
flush of the
so yeah,
day.
so
Do you
Biden,
want me to
yeah,
give?
give the flush of the day, the flush of the
Okay,
day.
we are going to give the
But
flush
but
of
so the flush
the.
of the day is really for yesterday. We're gonna give it to Manchin,
Oh,
right? Because he was the
okay.
one that advocated for the pipeline being. And
Okay.
forgive me if I mix up the digits, I get confused. My headphones.
All right. All right. We're good with the flush of the
We're
day.
going with the flush. So Manchin got the flush of the day because they
Mansion got
sneak
it.
in, right? So they're talking about the budget, and they sneak a pipeline in. So why is a senator advocating for a pipeline? Why does a senator have an attachment or some type of investment? Right? Isn't that a red flag? Like, he has
Payola,
connections
baby.
to the
Yeah.
fossil fuel industry. We have to acknowledge that the people that we have leading us are are being funded by the very industries that are killing us.
Oh, yes, they are.
Right? So we're over here like, hey, will you please represent me? No, it's not going to happen. They're willing to let us die. We can't have Senator Manchin as chairperson of the energy department when he has connections
Man,
to coal.
he gets a double flush.
Right. And Biden didn't do what he said he was going to do. So I don't know if we still have time to stop this. So if anybody has the opportunity to pull the representative, pull your senators, pull your House,
I do
pull the
it when
president,
I'm mad.
right? I do it all the time too.
I
And people
call.
tell me that it's a waste of time or whatever. But if enough people, believe me, if enough people call, it influences them.
I call
We
this new one here. I
all
call
show up.
what do they call him? Nick Langworthy, who became the congressman in my district instead of Tom Reed, who was disgracefully a pervert. He was, well, I don't know, pinching somebody's ass or sexually harassing in here. So now it's Nick Langworthy, who's another big fucking right wing loser. Blech. But I've called the office. Oh,
Unbelievable.
uh huh.
Unbelievable. And then what's the guy that was just got out of jail, $500,000 bail, and he won't say who did it?
Santos? No.
Santos.
Oh, the liar. Santos.
Yeah,
My God.
you
We
can't
are
make this
so
shit up.
fucked.
You
Sorry.
can't, right? Yeah, get out there and vote. But I mean, which crime syndicate do you want representing you?
I'd
Right?
rather have the Sopranos.
How do you want it?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Hmm.
So I don't know what we were talking about when we kind of went with the flush. The flush kind of flushed it all out. Manchin,
Okay. Well,
Biden,
yeah. Yeah. But you were talking
insurance
about.
companies.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about taking your money out of investing in fossil fuels, and hopefully using your voice anywhere that that you're spending your money. Right. Making sure you're talking to your bank, talking to wherever you're spending your money. You don't want your money being invested in fossil fuels. We were talking about insurance companies insurance companies are failing. Our systems are crashing. What are we going to do about it? So I'm always advocating for hemp. So we were talking about how hemp could be used to make a carbon neutral biofuel. So right now we're transitioning to electric vehicles. And I know that some people are concerned about going to electric vehicles. Is it a real solution? Right? What am I going to do with my combustion vehicle? Do I have to sell it? So there exists biofuel. So hemp could be used to make a carbon neutral biofuel. Now, there's actually been studies done by the fossil fuel industry with different types of biofuels. They use corn, seaweed. There's a lot of different things out there. And I think that they've actually done studies for the case of saying that it's not a good solution when it actually is a good solution. So the University of Connecticut did a recent study and showed that hemp as a biofuel is a good solution. So some states, California, Oregon, and Washington, what they've been doing is introducing biofuel into the fuel so that they could lower emissions.
But not
And
ethanol. Are you talking
they,
about ethanol?
so yes.
Okay.
So hemp could be used to make two different types of fuel. So sometimes I kind of mix, like, I don't know all the technical things, but I know that there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely two types of fuel that they can make. So the hempoline can power a diesel vehicle as is, right? So, I wondered if it would make sense to replace fleets of vehicles with new electric trucks for the sake of lowering emissions, when it might just be easier to produce biofuel, power these vehicles, and then burn the biofuel. So the biofuel, it's carbon neutral because it absorbs carbon while it's growing, and then it burns the same carbon. So it's like a cycle,
So,
right?
Brian, I have a question then. So, the manufacturing process for automobiles is obviously fossil fuel driven. So, let's say the manufacturing uses fossil fuels, but then the end result is that there's no CO2 burned by your vehicle. Is that what we're looking at?
Are you for a
I
hemp
mean,
based vehicle or the
yeah.
carbon?
I mean, it has to
So,
be built somehow.
well, yeah. So the vehicle, when it's built, they're definitely using. I mean, they could be using fossil fuels as far as the power. Now, really, one of the big reasons that I advocate for hemp is because of the absolute content towards us by the vehicle manufacturer. So yeah, I believe that the vehicle manufacturers are in bed with the fossil fuel industry, because it really doesn't make sense that the first vehicle ran on peanut oil. They could have made a car to run off hemp. You could have hydrogen vehicles, and I saw a prototype for a solar vehicle that just runs solar all the time. You don't ever have to get gas. It's like, why aren't we doing these things? So it's definitely suspicious to me that we make cars, and, to run off of fossil fuels, and we're dependent on fossil fuels by design
Right.
when we didn't necessarily have to be. Now, I was disgusted when I learned that they actually do make parts to fail at a certain amount of miles. Like, they actually do that on purpose.
Planned
You've heard that
obsolescence. Of
before,
course, it's
right?
planned
Oh,
obsolescence. It's everything.
and then when they make the car, so I worked with insurance, and now I work with repairs. So when they make the car, they make the parts so that you have to throw them out. Like, they're one-time use, it's called. So like, if you get hit on your bumper, and if we want to fix your bumper, I have to throw out a whole bunch of plastic because the manufacturer requires it. So, the point is that there's just no regard. Now, I live on the land of Lenape, and I'm happy to share this story that I'm not happy to share this story, but I'm happy to share this
Yeah.
on their behalf, because this
Sure.
is terrible.
Sure.
Because there was a Ford dealership in Mawa, and they would throw their materials on the land, on the indigenous
I
people's land.
remember I lived there near there in the 80s.
Yes. Okay. So, those people, they died young. They got
Yeah.
cancer, most of them.
It was terrible.
And there was a lawsuit, and some of them got some money, but it wasn't anywhere near justification. Like, here, your cut is $30,000. Like, what are you gonna do with that? You have cancer. So they don't have elders. They're not around. I heard the story. So it's Man versus Ford, or Ford versus Man. If anybody wants to watch it on HBO, it's a terrible story, but it's just one example of vehicle manufacturers' regard for us when they're making the vehicle, when it comes to repairing the vehicle, and we just eat it all up, right? So some of us want to transition to electric vehicles. You got other people that are buying Teslas, and they think that they're going to save the world by buying a Tesla. You're absolutely not going to save the world by buying a Tesla. People's concerns about the mining for materials and making the vehicles are valid, right? Those are valid concerns. So hemp could be used to make batteries. So I don't know if, we don't have the technology, or we can't necessarily replace lithium with hemp, right? So I'm not advocating, and I never was advocating, that we make everything with hemp. And, I always hear the argument when I talk to people about making the biofuel. It always comes down to, oh, well, then we don't, there's not enough land, or, oh, it uses water. So, nobody's concerned about polluting, using land when it comes to animal agriculture, polluting our water when it comes to fracking. But when I talk about growing hemp, which is absorbing carbon, regenerating soil, and you can use every single bit of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it also keeps nature intact. You still got your animals. You can use it in crop rotation. It's a big thing that we can use to to save ourselves from climate change. And it could also make all these different products, and people don't know about it because animal agriculture, lumber, they're all threatened. They all
It's
come
all here.
together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis was a Class A scheduled drug, meaning that it's the same as heroin or crack, right? And there's no medicinal value. When it's been proven to be able to treat cancer, there's some studies that said that it can beat it, right? Why don't we know that? Because we would rather chemicals.
Sure.
We would rather have the cure. There's more money in the cure. So we are in a very difficult situation, obviously with all these different things that are going on.
I have a question. I want to
Yeah.
put this up from Steph. And Steph asks, hemp cleaner, how is burning anything good? Building the car different may help, but not driving would be the best. So actually, can you talk a little bit about the burning process of hemp? Thank you, Steph.
So I said this, we talked about this already, as far as it absorbs carbon while it's growing, and then when you burn it, it's letting go of the same carbon that it absorbed, right? So I hear this she's right? People shouldn't be driving. So there is no one solution to transportation, right? So she's right. People should be using public transportation that's carbon neutral. People should be using their bikes when possible. People should be walking, right? So we have a whole bunch of us that are, looking to get into smaller vehicles and lower our emissions. But then there's others that, I don't know if anybody saw this, but it's like a tank. Bulletproof windows. It's like, it was almost like, I forget that video game, but stuff comes out the wheels.
Don't ask me.
they're prepared. Some of us are trying to lower our footprint while other people are preparing for the zombie apocalypse. It looked like the zombie apocalypse car, that you get this vehicle for $300,000, you might shoot a missile at somebody if they're slow in traffic. It was like that, right? But it's two schools of thought, so there's no one solution, right? So what I'm saying is that we should be, if we're going to make vehicles, use hemp in the materials, replace the seats, replace the headliner, use it for the body panels, get rid of the plastic that's no longer, let's have something that's recyclable, biodegradable instead of the plastic that we're using now. Let's use hemp, where we can, but also smaller vehicles. So there was, going to electric vehicles is not the answer, right? So, I'm proposing more something of a hybrid vehicle like BMW. So some of the vehicle manufacturers are using hemp to make the vehicle lighter and to minimize their imprint a little bit. So BMW, they have a vehicle that's made out of hemp that's an electric vehicle as well. So I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see vehicle manufacturers and the government and everybody involved, so some of us, it's important that we're in the conversation right now, because as we're transitioning to electric vehicles, some people are looking to make a profit from it. So some people are talking about not going to electric vehicles. They do have a valid concern because there are actual greenwashing out there, looking to sell you an electric vehicle with no regard for the overall, environmental impact.
Do you think that maybe business as usual, though, is something that has to be addressed, and that we don't need the amount of vehicles, and that people, that like the degrowth of this? What do you think of not making the amount of vehicles and changing, if we have even time to do it?
Yeah. If you're, oh my goodness. Yeah, so vehicle manufacturers want to make more vehicles. Right now, the fossil fuel industry is threatened by, people wanting to go to electric vehicles, so they're making more plastic. Vehicle manufacturers have tons of vehicles, and, they're looking to make more electric vehicles and bring the price of vehicles up and sell more vehicles.
Yeah.
So we live in a capitalist society where, we have this idea of infinite growth. So we need to recognize that, we cannot continue to to grow. This idea of growth, developed land is dead land, really. The vehicle manufacturers are producing more vehicles and contaminating the water and leaving all the waste, right? There used to be places in the ocean where they would bury the tires, places in the
Oh,
ocean where they would
God.
bury the batteries,
Oh, the
right? They
batteries.
they didn't think they were gonna run out of space ever. They're like, oh, let's just
Batteries.
bury it over
The
here. It's
batteries
fine.
in the
It's
water.
it's fine, right? There's in the desert. There's mountains of clothes, right? In our landfills, um, they say that 80% of the materials in the landfills could have been recyclable. So this is something that drives me crazy. I don't know if it's like this by you, but I have to recycle, but the businesses don't have to recycle. So
It's ridiculous.
I recycle everything, but you tell me the bar, the supermarket, every single, like the hotels, um, that all goes to a landfill.
It's
That doesn't
horrible.
that doesn't make any sense
No,
whatsoever.
none. And then I have to go to the dump because I have no garbage pickup, and everybody knows
Oh
because
wow.
I make videos there at the dump.
I gotta
And
see these videos. I miss
yeah, I've
those.
had them up. But I go to the dump, and I actually have a shed outside that I put my garbage in, that and my stuff recycling, so I can go to make my dump trips. Which this year I made three. I picked up crap all over my property. I mean, I made some heavy dump trips, but there's different plastics that they won't even let you can't put the dark plastic in, like the black plastic, but you can
Hmm.
recycle the light plastic. I mean, what the fuck difference does it make?
Well, so let me shout out to the Sierra Club and Beyond
Okay.
Plastic real quick.
All
So
right.
right now, because you're in New York, so there's groundbreaking legislation that's been uh, proposed recently. I forget the senator's name that put it forward, but it's the Packaging Reducing and Recycling Act.
Oh,
I'm not 100% sure of the name,
okay.
but what they're basically proposing is that the companies that are making the packaging have to make it smaller. So what they have to do is use 10% less material for the next 5 years until they're using, no material, right? But also what it's doing is it's banning. So this is important. Is it's banning PFAS. So there's different types of plastics, right? So plastic can be recycled one time if it's recyclable. Then most of it isn't even recyclable. So it's toxic. We
Oh, it
decided let's
is.
bottle our water with this toxic
I
material
just use
that
glass
is
over
getting that
glass.
is getting in your drinks. They've
Yeah.
discovered that it is getting in your drinks. There's forever chemicals, PFAS. So this law is proposing banning some of the chemicals, some of the worst chemicals. So it's a good thing. And if this happens, it can catch on. So I know that in New Jersey, when I'm looking for things to advocate for, I look to New York to see or other states what they're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
then we could follow them. So New Jersey, we passed an environmental justice law pretty recently that basically what it did was categorize certain communities that if you had a certain air quality or a certain amount of fossil fuel plants, that they could not propose anything new. So since they proposed this environmental justice law, we were actually able to successfully or use it to deny, power plants.
Oh yeah.
Which is so hopefully those of you out there, if you have the ability to, if there's any fossil fuel projects in your neighborhood that you're not aware of or that other people aren't aware of, or try to find out if there's anything, because they don't go around and tell you. So you have the opportunity to go to the public meeting, to leave a comment and to oppose the fossil fuel project or whatever project or development is in your town. So pretty recently they were talking about warehouses. So warehouses, they want to go to different types of farms and different places on, land that isn't developed, and they want to develop it and put warehouses,
Oh,
so that we can all get our products quicker. And this to me is crazy,
that's insane.
that some of us are concerned about, whether or not we're going to have a habitable planet, and other people are concerned with whether or not they're going to get their gadget in one day or not. And they want to build these warehouses. So, it's up to all of us to stop these things from happening. Like, please, So she was right. Public transportation, not buying a car. We don't need our widgets. We don't need these warehouses. This is a climate emergency.
We have to change business as usual, but there's no political will. It's
No,
very difficult.
there is
And
no political
I
will.
mean, I tend to be, on the negative doomer side because I don't see in the big picture. But the small picture, I do see that all the actions you take, any actions I take, and I am going to my meeting Saturday, and we're talking about PFAS in our county, and we've been successful in keeping fracking brine off the roads in the winter. I mean, those are little local things you can
Hmm.
do. You can win, and I'm still doing them. I don't give them up. There's just, and then it's going to be a good meeting. We'll see what happens, but it, it, it's just frustrating.
Valid. Doing everything that you do, and that's enough. I mean, that's all you could ask of anybody. Because I think the thing that frustrates me is seeing people that are just completely clueless and wasteful. Like, I thought when gas went up to $4, $3, that people would stop just sitting there. Right? I walk my dog, I walk around, and people are sitting there in the park while their kids are playing a game. The car's just running with the AC for no reason. So like I think that's crazy. Of course it's minimal, but my point is just that it's just wasteful. Like, there's no concern. People are just throwing their garbages. So some of us are concerned about PFAS and climate, and other
Yep.
people are just going on like, oh, it's gonna magically disappear. Climate change is a hoax, right? Oh, hey, I'd like an update on the worm that eats plastics. Like, how's that going? Did they finish the garbage patch yet with the worms?
I do have to say, Brian, though, there are more people that I would not expect who are talking about PFAS, who actually understand there's a problem and feel that there's some kind of connection to health problems in their children, to the
Ye-
plastics that they have been ingesting since birth,
You
the
know,
last, 25, 30 years.
So I think that this is something that should be not in your traditional bipartisan, meaning that the people get screwed by both parties, but that should be something that we should all agree on.
That's really
Because I
serious.
know that a lot of people are concerned about different types of things with their
Uh,
children, health concerns, but can't everybody on the left and on the right, get over whatever our differences are and agree that PFAS should be banned? And I hope so. I hope that we can everybody. So yeah, I think that's going to happen. But as far as the rest of the plastic concern, and we have more hurdles than that. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction. So are you aware that there's a company that's going to dump like 1 million gallons of toxic waste into the Hudson River?
uh-huh. And I'm aware of the Fukushima water that Japan wants to let out. I mean, we also have a nuclear crowd here too. I don't know where you are on that, but talk to us
Oh,
about the Hudson River water.
well, I don't know a lot about it. I know that there's some of us that are trying to stop it, and I mean, it just kind of looks like the company that produces that water, they're gonna dump it in there. So I mean, that's crazy to me that that's something that we allow. So I bring it up not because I'm an expert in it, but because I'm trying to talk about things that we can all agree on. Whether it's the left or the right, right? So right now in New Jersey, at least, we're developing the off wind, right? Are we? Is it a solution? Is it not a solution? People disagree, but can't we all agree that we should ban PFAS? Can't we all agree that dumping toxic waste in the Hudson River is bad?
Yep.
You know,
Yep. I think
um,
so.
right? Can't we all? So right? We may not all agree on if climate change is real or how it's if we have an
Ugh.
influence on it, right? So I came from a meeting before I came here on false climate solutions. So I've always thought that transitioning to electric vehicles is greenwashing. It's a false solution. They want us to buy vehicles. They're not really concerned about the overall environmental impact. And although it's a improvement, it's not a solution, right? Carbon capture, right? So carbon capture is a false solution. So we pay subsidies to the fossil fuel industry to absorb carbon. So
Mm.
whatever side you're on, right? I'm sure everybody on the left that knows that carbon capture is a scheme by the fossil fuel industry to still get government grants and to still get money, right? So the fossil fuel industry, they've known about the havoc that they're causing, and they're still getting money from our government from full solutions. Carbon capture,
Yeah,
right?
bullshit
Natural gas. So
solutions.
do you know how our
Totally.
government plans on transitioning to 100% renewable energy? Do you know how they plan on doing that? By
With magical thinking.
redefining what they call renewable energy, right? So if they define, so I mean, I don't know enough about nuclear. Like, my concern with nuclear is that it's a threat. And obviously, if if the plant goes down, if something happens, it's a threat. So that's my concern with nuclear. Is there an argument for getting the power, or using the power to transition to renewable energy? They have a good argument. So I don't know about
Right.
that, right? So we have to be concerned about, the greenwashing. Natural gas is methane. It's not natural.
The
Green
clean
natural
gas.
gas, right?
Oh,
The
jeez.
green gas. There was just a lawsuit that Exxon, I think, is not allowed to say green gas because that was bullshit, right? So it's important. We need to watch these companies because people hear it and they're like, oh, it's natural gas. Oh, it's renewable energy. When these companies are
Yeah.
full of shit. It's not,
Right. They
right?
are.
So
God.
a couple weeks ago, I'm at dinner and I'm with somebody and they're talking about their prescription and they say to me that they can't use their prescription with cannabis. And
Really?
I made a joke. I was just like, oh, so you mean that the industry that was telling me that cannabis was bad for the past 90 years still wants to tell me, whether or not I should smoke cannabis? Like, because to me, that's hysterical. Like, oh yeah, I believe them now. To me, that's hysterical. Obviously, I don't believe them. They've been full of shit for 90 years, right? Now they're making a profit off of cannabis. They decided, these people are going to kill us if we don't legalize it. Let's legalize it, but let's make sure
No.
we're making money off of it. That's what's happening. It's
Yeah.
not as if they let everybody that was in jail out and said we're sorry. You
Early
should
Love
start.
wants us to kick the can. He's asking to kick the can because that's about what everybody does.
What does that mean?
Well,
Kick
you
the
kick the
can.
can from one thing to another and then
Oh, you kick the
nothing
can
ever
to the next
gets
thing.
done.
Oh,
We kick the can.
well,
That's,
that's what our news does, right? Like,
yep.
we all need to continue to stay engaged and not get distracted by the next thing that's going on. Years ago, I heard a speech and he was talking about voting with your dollars and just being conscious, and it just affected me. So I always think about what I'm doing and stay active or whatever. But most people are just concerned with just trying to survive capitalism or survive their daily life,
Yep.
and they don't have the time to really dig into the issues and to do anything, and they want to believe that the people that are steering the car, have their best interest in mind, but they don't. So, I'm trying to tell you, or everybody that doesn't know, even though I guess your crowd is aware, but what I'm used to is
Oh, they are.
people have no clue. So you know what? There's only so much we can do, but I'm from the school of, I know that there's a lot of people that are doing things for me and they're trying, so I'm going to join them. I'm not going to make it easy for the fossil fuel industry that wants us to stay home and wants us to be depressed about it. I'm going to fight them. I'm going to speak up and I'm going to continue to do something. So to the people that don't want to do anything, do me a personal favor. At least shut the fuck up. Excuse my language. But I can't tell
It's
you
all right.
how
We're not
often
monetized. You
people
can
that
say
are
fuck.
doing something will be like, oh, well, that's not gonna, like, don't just stop. If you wanna stay home and you don't think anything can be done, that's fine. Some of us, it's all we got. It's like, I have to do something, otherwise I'm gonna lose it. So please don't tell me that what I'm doing has no effect on anything. Like, if that's what you want to take your energy to do to bring me down when I'm trying to do something,
And
you
it
know.
doesn't matter. The thing is, little things, I don't stop. Little things have an effect. I mean, if the people where I live did not fight and use amazing civil disobedience in the 80s,
Yeah.
to keep a nuclear waste plant out of our county if they gave up and said, "Oh, well, we can't fight." Well, they did and we won.
And
Well,
they went
I
right.
wasn't living
We're
here.
seeing direct action has an effect. We
When you
see
don't get
it
arrested, which is
when you
not.
don't get arrested, or even when
Yeah.
you do get arrested. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it takes to get people to pay attention, but I mean, we're seeing that a lot of the actions that people are doing are getting some type of results. So I'm for taking action, and I believe in the butterfly effect. Now, a lot of us, or I get a lot of people say things like, "Oh, what's the point? We need for this system to crumble so that we can build." And yeah, I agree with that. But right now, our government is giving out money for the IRA, and if I could make sure that my bridge works, or my water is clean, or my building has a battery and solar panels, and
Hmm.
my land is prepared for the floods, then I'm going to do that. Like, I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen. I don't know.
Right.
So
Well, we're
um,
here till we're not, Brian.
we're here
We
till we're
are
not.
here till we're not. Nobody knows the date, no matter who wants to prognosticate on the date. We're here till we're not, and you might as well give it your best shot, especially you're young. You
That
know,
just rhymed.
I mean, I gave it my best shot for so many different things my whole life, and I'm tired, but you're not.
I'm tired, but
Yeah, but you're a fighter.
I'm a fighter.
You're a fighter.
I'm single. It took a lot for me to acknowledge that as a white male, that my group of people that I belong to is actually, the group that is the worst group of people for the planet, for the planet. Like, I'm privileged. I've been lied to my entire life.
Oh.
I didn't realize the privileges that I had. And then when people pointed it out to me and I realized, I think to myself, wow, like, I'm lucky to be alive. So I find myself in a situation where I know, something about vehicles, and I feel obligated to advocate for people that can't, and to do something because I'm in a position to, so that keeps me going. And I don't know what's gonna happen.
You see what Han said? Tinder alert. You said you're single.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I have a very funny chat, a very funny
um,
crowd.
what when I got divorced is when I got in act. I got
Oh,
divorced, and I found myself in a
I'm
situation
divorced.
getting
So,
getting involved, right? So during COVID, a lot of us were sitting home, and I heard a lot of people talking about, oh, I learned what was important, and we realized that a lot of people were full of shit because they were staying home watching the Tiger King or whatever, and I watched all these documentaries and infomercials freaking myself out about climate change.
but you
So
learned something.
learn something, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But I wish I didn't know. I don't know. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
we all say that sometimes. I look at pictures that pop up in Facebook of me when I was riding my Harley with my girls and working my job and didn't know. And I thought, oh, natural gas was clean because that's what they told me. And I worked in research. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew we were studying the Great Lakes. We were studying benzoate we were studying, all this stuff. But I didn't know
Oh,
how
so
bad.
can we talk about? I wanted to talk about the offshore wind. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so because this is going on in Jersey, so you're a little bit north of me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sometimes I'm just curious about what's going on in the rest of the world. So I don't know. In New Jersey, it's controversial. Do we want to develop offshore wind?
Right.
There's been dolphins and whales and other types of large fish recently that have been washing up on the Jersey Shore.
Oh.
So the offshore wind project, they've been surveying, and they are going to develop offshore wind all along the Jersey Shore, right? So some of the are you familiar with this situation at all, Sandy?
Yes, and I
Yeah,
also
yeah,
know they
okay.
don't want to do it in Florida either.
They don't want to do it oh, right. So this whole situation, right? So it caused, I did some research because I wanted to know exactly what's going on. So what's going on is basically whales, dolphins have been washing up on the Jersey Shore.
Mm-hmm.
So Republican senators, mayors, uh, people in that area are very concerned. They seem to believe that the offshore wind development is the cause of these mammals dying and washing up on the shore. So there's groups of people that are advocating against the offshore wind because they want to protect the dolphins and the whales. So I mean, it's a great. I appreciate that they want to protect the dolphins and the whales, right? So unfortunately, the media has manipulated the stories so that we're hearing the stories of the dolphins and the whales dying, and we're hearing about the offshore wind, and people are making the connection, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So people are, they think that the offshore wind development is basically messing with the dolphins and the whales' sonars, and it's causing them to get stranded on the shore. Right. So they are trying to stop the development of the offshore wind in New Jersey. So New Jersey is I don't know where we're going to land on developing the offshore wind if the people of New Jersey think that it's more important to preserve the skyline because people don't want to see the wind turbines. They're concerned about what it's going to look like. They're concerned about the whales, but they're not concerned about their homes being underwater, and they're not concerned about the wild or making the connection because there's the wildfires by you, or I'm sorry, in Canada, and it's coming down by you. But there's also wildfires south of where I am in Central Jersey and South Jersey, scattered wildfires as well. So it's very it's insane to me that people can be concerned about looking at a wind turbine and not be concerned about your home going to be underwater within the next 10 years because you live on the coast.
Well, there's a big disconnect, a huge one. Aren't they coming out with bladeless wind turbines?
Wind turbine? I don't know. I know that there's
different.
There's a lot of different ones, and there's always like a lot of different technology. So I sat in a couple different classes as far as what they were doing. So it wasn't, they didn't have the bladeless ones, but of course I asked if they could make the turbines out of hemp materials. That was my question, but that's a good question. Right. But so it's interesting to me that some people are concerned about what we're going to do with the solar panels in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? What are we going to do with the batteries in 20 years from now? What are we going to do with the wind turbines in 30 years from now, or whatever their life expectancy is? But we're starting to see, like, what are we going to do about breathing now?
Today.
It's affecting us now. So we have to stop burning fossil fuels. We have to use everything at our disposal. We can't vote our way out of this, right? We can't just can we all stop buying gas? You saw that last time there was a shortage. There was people trying to hoard gasoline, and they're putting it in plastic bags. So we have, one group of people that wants to try to survive and is worried about everybody. And then we've got other groups of people that are just looking to hoard all the resources. So I don't know what's going to happen. So we got to, resist on all fronts, whether we're spending our money, keep our politicians, but we got to recognize that the fossil fuel industry owns our government, and we got to look out for these false solutions.
I got a question. Are you aware of what the aerosol masking effect is?
Yes.
What do you think about the fact that if we do stop burning, which of course I think is going to be incremental like everything else, that we may heat the planet without having that masking effect to protect us? What do you think about that?
I think the whole thing it's all very terrifying, so and some of it is over my head. From what I understand, a lot of the technology for carbon capture, which I'm against, that I think that we should all be against as a bipartisan. I don't think I've finished that little rant, but it's very concerning. It's scary, but it's clear that we have to stop burning fossil fuels. So we have to be very careful with this thing that we want to do with playing God. We can't choose. We can't try to develop some type of technology to suck something out of the air, because then there's going to be another side effect that we didn't realize. There's some people have suggested type of thing, like, what was it? I don't know what it's called. There's some type of like water or something that they wanted to put in the atmosphere, and the idea of it was that it was going to shade. The idea of shading the sun.
You mean like the chemtrails?
not like the chemtrails, but maybe similar.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
my argument is
experimental phase.
we can't use technology. It's technology that got us here.
I think
So I
that's
really
true.
I don't know what's gonna I don't know how that's gonna play, but I believe we need to stop burning fossil fuels. And I think that there's some things out there, like there's the idea that our government is controlling the weather for the purpose of implementing martial law. So
Nefarious.
I don't know if you heard of years ago it was Agenda 21,
Yes.
right?
Now it's Agenda 30, walkable
So whatever it
cities.
is,
Yeah.
right? But like, do you know how crazy you sound? Because you see how inept our government is. You see how they can't function. Like, what's more reasonable? That we have uncontrolled chaos based on overall savagery, selfishness, exploitation, bad decisions, lack of caring. Like, we have chaos. Like, they didn't think of a scheme 80 years ago to slowly warm the planet so that they could implement some rule on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy to me. So I think that people want this. People will come up with or believe any type of explanation that absolves them from taking any type of action or changing the way they live. Like, we want to believe, some people want to believe God's in control of the climate. Some people want to believe that whatever company is going to solve it, right? But what I see as a similarity is this idea of, I can't do anything, so I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want. Like, just do your part and just, try
Yeah.
to minimize your use.
Yeah,
Take public
I
transportation.
try, but it's
Walk
not
where you can.
easy. It's not easy though because
No.
I tend to stay home. I don't go out much. I don't drive a lot. Today I did. I had lunch with someone that's in our chat actually.
Nice.
Wolf. Yeah, we met and I did go out. Uh and but I try, I try, but I don't try enough because I tend to sometimes buy shit from Amazon and I look at it this way. They're driving anyway. And so for me to go out and go all the way down to the store to get one little widget piece of shit when these guys are driving anyway and having a job, they're coming over. I rationalize. I use a lot of,
Yeah.
defense mechanisms, I guess, but I do. And I don't, and I feel bad about it, but yet then I've got something that's going to make something work on my place, but it's a hard thing, and I know my house is where I live is completely carbon free or electric. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
changing over everything to electric. I can't afford solar, but I got electric hot water heater and I've got electric everything except for backup furnace is still propane because I'm off the beaten path and propane. And then I have what else is propane? The dryer, which is 150 years old, which, I'm trying to pin things outside. So,
Then don't
yeah.
feel bad. Don't feel bad about it. There's only so much you could do. I saw especially years ago on minimalism. Are you familiar with minimalism? Because I think it's great, but really just because we're programmed
But I'm not
to
minimalistic. I'm
we're,
not.
we're we're programmed to want the next thing, right? We always want you go to buy a shirt and it's like, oh, that, or you buy a house, right? The kitchen is dated. That color is last year. I want the new car, the bigger TV. Like, we just always want new shit. And once you break that cycle, once you realize that you're never going to have it all, and that's just a hole you're trying to fill in this materialistic, you're taking it out materialistically. Once you realize that and basically change your mindset on the things that you buy, like, I don't have a hard time with it, but at the same point, like, if you want to buy something, there's only so much you can do as an individual. It's not your fault that you've been manipulated and programmed your entire life to try to survive this system. You're not
Most of
just
the
gonna
shit I
you're
buy
not just
is
gonna
to
stop.
fix my house. It's to
Somebody
fix
told
my
me
house.
recently that I was a hypocrite because I drove a car, and I'm like,
The fuck are you supposed to do?
what am I supposed to do? Exactly. I'm doing my part to try to advocate for, cleaner energy and drive less or whatever, but I have to survive. I have to live. I want to, and then there's times that, I shouldn't be driving or I'm being wasteful. And, I'm human. There's only so much that I can do. without losing my shit completely, realistically. Because this is something that I ask myself a lot. You wonder why some of the people that you talk to about climate change, like why do you explain everything and it just doesn't get to them, because there's only so much that the human brain that you can process or that you can handle, so it's a defense mechanism for a lot of people. You could only give people so much. They got to kind of slowly realize what's happening. So there's only so much you could do. Don't feel bad
Hi,
about it.
Jean. Jean's here from She Likes. Wait, where's her stuff owned you? Oh, I really like the way Brian thinks. I
Thanks,
think,
Gene.
yeah, she's from
Anybody can
Costa
follow
Rica.
me. Anybody can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Brian Hugs Trees.
I know you're a
So
tree
I'm
hugger. I
happy to
love
connect.
it.
I'm a tree
Tree
hugger.
hugger. I literally do talk to my trees in my orchard, and I talk to my plants, and I talk to my cats, and I am the crazy lady.
Well, it's been proven to work if you play music and you talk to your trees and different types of things,
I
right? It
do.
helps them grow.
I
Yeah,
think
so
it
that's
does.
good.
They hear
Yeah,
me and they say, "Oh, she's coming!" No, they say, they
the
say
frequencies, right? Have you seen that you could put a speaker or you could put a microphone on a plant or on a tree and you could listen to it and it lets off a frequency and it sounds like music. Have you ever seen that?
no.
No,
That's
it
cool.
exists. I swear.
How
I
technological is that?
I don't know. I'm not that
Uh,
technical. I think you know
yeah,
that I don't know, but I saw it. It was in the display at the
yeah.
botanical garden.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
cool. I'll have to look
yeah.
into that. Playing music all over the property for all the plants. I do it for the cats. They like it.
I'm that's good.
They like cat TV though. They
Cat
like to,
TV.
yeah, they like cat TV. I'm such a nerd. Oh my
Well,
god.
cat TV is enjoyable. So anybody that follows me on Instagram, I like to share videos of cats and dogs. And then what I do is I sneak in videos of pigs and cows. So I'm subtly sneaking in different vehicles because I had this experience. So I'm vegan. So I had this experience where I saw a deer playing in my backyard. And it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, the deer look just like dogs. I was like, they have personalities? And I'm like, holy
Yes.
shit. I'm like, oh my God, animals have personalities. They're not
Oh, they
just
are. They do.
they're not just there for us to eat. I'm like, you mean that the planet isn't an all you can eat buffet? And
No.
it's not my garbage can. So these things actually are alive. So I stopped eating animals. Animal agriculture, we talked about animal agriculture being the biggest cause of deforestation. So I no longer eat animals because I saw the deer playing in my backyard. Um, I don't know why I felt like sharing that with you. What were we talking about? I'm losing it over
Oh, it's
here.
okay. We can lose it. We're on a
Yeah,
free.
you
For
you you
we're
know
on
what?
a
You get me going sometimes.
get you going. I get everybody going. But you know what I wanted to do really quick? I wanted to
Yeah.
show everybody your presentation, even though we're not going to go through the whole thing. It's it's amazing, guys, what Brian has
So I'm
done.
in the Climate Reality Project is the only organization that I know that it has a hemp advocacy group. So if anybody wants to sign up for the Climate Reality Project and join our hemp advocacy group, there's a lot that we need. So it's very complicated because hemp is has been criminalized with cannabis. So in some states, cannabis is illegal, and that affects the processing, making products out of hemp. So I think that we should be using hemp in transportation to try to minimize our environmental impact in transportation. We should be using hemp to minimize our environmental impact in building materials. So hemp could be used to could make concrete, insulation, paper products, flooring. So this information has been suppressed by the industries that it's a threat to, because these industries basically lobby and fund our government. As far as the advertising, the fossil fuel industries even put out false studies out there, to keep this information away. So, I'm advocating for the development of hemp. Hemp was used. I don't know if you went through it at all, Sandy, or if there was anything that interests you. Um, but it used to be used. Our Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper. Thomas Edison was a hemp advocate. So we have a long history of using hemp.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's really, I think of it to be the crime of the century that our government criminalized hemp and cannabis.
Absolutely.
And, so that's what my presentation was about. So I've been looking to spread this information. So if you're in a group and you're willing to let me educate your group about the history of hemp, the uses of hemp, where we are in its development, and what we can do to help get it developed, I would love if Elon Musk or somebody with money, invested in some of these real solutions. So it's frustrating to me to see that hemp gets legalized and we're using hemp for CBD, but we're not using it, for its benefit, or to its potential. So
No,
I'm
we're
looking
not.
to advocate for it. There's a couple great documentaries. So I know that you talked about Hemp Revolution. So Hemp Revolution is great. There's Bringing Down the House, which is pretty new, pretty recent, and it's basically using hemp for building materials. Um, then there's another recent documentary, but anybody, if you're interested, if you start checking out some of those documentaries on hemp, it has a lot of uses, it has a long history, and I think it's a big piece of the puzzle as far as regenerating our soil and helping keep our planet livable, so that hopefully we can survive for another couple centuries or so. So that The Emperor Wears No Clothes was a book by Jack Herer. Um, and I thought it was a conspiracy, but he basically tells the story to lay it out as far as the industries that were involved in lobbying and influencing our government. Our government. Maybe some people make bad decisions. I don't necessarily know. Why they
Right.
thought that.
Right.
It was. They play off of our emotions, but in 2023 we should understand that because somebody smokes cannabis, it doesn't make them a bad person. That's crazy. There is medicinal benefit to smoking cannabis. So hopefully, you are for legalizing cannabis, and there's no reason for us not to
Federally.
be.
It
Yeah,
needs to be
federally.
federally. This is ridiculous. The states have
Right.
it,
So
and
that was the industries that are
federally.
involved. So there's
Look at
industries
the
now that
states.
are lobbying our
Look at
government.
this.
There's states now, that are looking to criminalize it and are looking to make sure that these things don't get developed. So it's important, to really control the narrative for enough people to know, because when I start talking about hemp, a lot of people have this idea that sometimes people call me a stoner, or they kind of joke about it, right? I don't even know where that even comes from. I think it's pretty stupid,
It's
but
pretty stupid. Yeah.
it really is. But then a lot of people say things like, "Oh, well, if it could do that, then it would be right," and they believe that the systems that are in place are going to operate the way that they should. They don't understand that it's about business, it's about money. The industries that are responsible for spreading misinformation and basically causing the climate crisis and a pollution crisis at the same time, they're looking to hide that information. They're looking to not be held responsible. They're looking to continue to get money from our government subsidies and different types of thing. And they're looking, for you to stay home and think that you could do nothing about it. So what they don't want is for us to shine the flashlight on them and hold them responsible for what they've done. So we are seeing a lot of lawsuits recently, where some of the big oil companies are being held responsible or are having to pay for their cleanups. So that was a project, a cannabis vehicle, right? So this guy made a vehicle out of cannabis that ran off of the hemp biofuel, and that project died around the same time that we decided to transition to electric vehicles,
Oh,
right? So I don't
oh.
necessarily know if it's a coincidence or not, but I
Right.
don't think that we should be transitioning to electric vehicles and writing off certain things. So that's the BMW that has the hemp. That's some of the hemp biofuels that are big. So the fossil fuel industry, they're not going to say, oh, we were wrong about burning fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
We should use hemp. So I find it interesting that they're quietly introducing it into the fuel stream,
Mm.
right? Like it's not like they're going to acknowledge it or talk about it, but
Right.
it's happening slowly. And I think that people should be aware of it because I'm told that there's no market for hemp biofuel. I can't get hemp biofuel because there's no market for it.
Right.
Right? What does
That's
that mean? Of course. Like,
they
why do
don't
I have to
want
go
a
to a gas
market
station?
for it.
Why can't I get a 5-gallon plastic container that's made out of hemp plastic and has 5 gallons of gasoline in it? Why can't I buy that at the store? I would buy that. Right? Why do I got to go to the gas station? Why do we have to have this whole system? I would buy the hemp biofuel. So if people know about it, they know it's an alternative. So I've been trying to get my hands on hemp biofuel, and I heard that a lot of people actually just make it themselves. A lot of farmers make biofuel for their vehicles, their diesel vehicles out on their farms. And I think that's amazing. I think that's great. So I think it would be great if Lego actually went to plastic like they said. So that was the Lego said that they were going to go to hemp plastic, which would be a good thing because hemp plastic would be recyclable, biodegradable. Every piece of plastic that you've ever used still exists.
Then it would be woke.
It would be woke Legos.
Woke Legos. Oh my God.
Hysterical.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it. But this is quite a presentation. I mean, obviously we're not doing it. I'm just showing the pages, but anybody that wants it should email me and I'll send it to you if you don't mind, Brian, right?
Yeah, I don't mind. You can spread that.
It's wonderful.
That with everybody.
You have put so much into this. Can hemp, I mean, there's just so much. We don't have enough time to talk about everything, but hemp fiber
can make clothes. It could be used to make clothes. It's a complete food source, right? So I mean, it's just amazing all the different things that it can do. So
look
it
at
absolutely, it needs to be in the conversation. We need to be developing it as much as we can. No, I'm not looking to. I always hear the voice of the things that people say because people repeat the narrative that the fossil fuel industry, put out there, right? Oh, we don't have enough land. Oh, it uses water. What we're concerned about the monoculture. So hemp, we absolutely need to regenerate our soil right now. So the Farm Bill is going to be coming up pretty soon. So we should be advocating for a strong Farm Bill. We need to regenerate our soil. Using our soil, regenerating our soil would be a big way of absorbing emissions. And we can do that using hemp. So there's just a lot of things. So really anybody that's interested in letting me do a presentation and talk about hemp, and really it's just important to understand the reason that this information is hidden, because the industries that it's a threat to, so I just want to make that clear. So hopefully we see it. Hopefully it happens.
I have an interesting one for you.
Question?
Jean, she wants to know if you're married.
No. So I said earlier that I got divorced, and that was when I got
she wasn't here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that was when I got into activism. So I kind of have a girlfriend. Her name is Abby. So so I said before that I was single.
Hi, Abby.
Because I'm not married. And then after I said that, I was like, yeah.
Was that the same girl you met that you taught that?
No,
it's a different girl.
So, right. So what was interesting was, shout out to the divorced people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm happily one, very, very happily one.
It's better to be alone than to be with the wrong person. So the girl I was with when I met with you last, I am no longer with her.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about that.
Hey,
She's still
hopefully
hon. She's still doing her thing,
And you're
hopefully
young
she's
and
still
shit
doing
happens.
her thing. Yeah, that's all.
So let's go to some of the because we're an hour and 23 minutes.
How long
let's go. Well, as long as my back doesn't hurt, my neck doesn't hurt, and right now I'm doing okay. So I want to go to some of the questions and things I flagged so we can go through this. Let's see. Melanie had made a comment earlier. It was the Ford's 1941 bioplastic Model T was made of hemp, flax, wheat, and spruce pulp, which made the car lighter than fiberglass and 10 times tougher than steel, wrote the New York Times on February 2nd, 1941. So we knew.
Yes, we knew. So that information, right? So shortly after that vehicle came out, and at that time there was actually a campaign, Hemp for Victory. So during World War One, hemp was used for a lot of the materials.
I have that video. I could play like
And
a 2-second part of it.
if you want to.
Should I? All right, guys, let's take a little look at this video. It's kind of cute. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to just show you what it is if you want it. You can find it in I'll put I'll find it in the link. Why not? Let's take a look at it. Let me take a look at it. Okay.
Long ago, when these ancient Grecian temples were new, hemp was already old in the service of mankind. For thousands of years even then, this plant had been grown for cordage and coarse cloth in China and elsewhere in the East. For centuries prior to about 1850, all the ships that sailed the western seas were rigged with hempen rope and sails. For the sailor, no less than the hangman, hemp was indispensable. A 44-gun frigate, like our cherished old Ironsides, took over 60 tons of hemp for rigging. Including an anchor cable 25 inches in circumference. The Conestoga wagons and prairie schooners of pioneer days were covered with hempen canvas. Indeed, the very word canvas comes from the Arabic word for hemp. In those days, for Kentucky. Another pioneer plant that has been making cordage for more than a century. In the old days, rope yarn was spun by hand.
So I think you guys
It's old. That's old. I brought that up because it's really a good example of when our government wants to do something, they can actually do something because
let's make
they
sure
wanted
everybody
to.
wait, let me make sure
Oh.
everybody can hear us. Shit. Hang on. Cuz things don't always go right. I don't know why.
Well, I could see myself while
my
the video was on, so I'm like, oh my god, are we looking
Okay,
at, like,
we're
my
on.
reactions
No,
when the
we're
video's
on. We're good.
I was just saying that's old, but that's just an example of that when our government wants to accomplish something, they could. So like when they wanted to use hemp to make, warships and unite the country for the war and use hemp, they did it, so they worked together and they grew a lot of hemp, they made material, they made products, and they did it. So like they can do it, right? It doesn't happen now because there's no motive, they don't want to, they're, whether it's misinformation, they were duped, bad decisions, connections to the fossil fuel industry. It's so complicated now that there's so much that we have to do if we're really going to move forward, but we need to end fossil fuels.
I think that's a good way to end the show. We need to end fossil fuels.
We need to end fossil fuels. That's a good thing. We need to end fossil fuels. We need to end plastic. We need to end.
We've been an hour and a half. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Good. I always enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, it's been, and I like having you here, and I maybe more than once a year. So, guys, how you doing out there? It looks like there's a lot of chit chat, but that's cool. I'll put the things in the show notes. Email me if you want the presentation. Certainly find Brian. He'll give me his links. If you want him for a presentation for an organization, possibly. I mean, Brian would be great, even in the organization that I belong to do a presentation. I could set it up for him to do online. So there's a lot of things that he offers. So Brian, would
Anybody
you
that's
like?
interested in advocating for hemp, if anybody wants
Yeah.
to advocate for hemp or has any information, even if you have any information, if you think that hemp is not a good solution for something and you want to send me some anti-hemp information, feel free to share me that. I would be interested in looking at it, But yeah, contact me if you want to advocate with hemp for hemp. Thank
Jean
you.
wants to know if you have any contact with Winona LaDuke, who's in a Minnesota hemp farm project.
No, I don't have any contact with her. So the closest hemp farm that I'm aware of is in like South Jersey that I have plans to go check it out. I would love
Very
to go
cool.
to a hemp farm. I know that she has a website and she grows hemp out there. She has a lot of products for sale as well.
Cool. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't.
Well, you can always use this.
Yeah, maybe eventually I will. I bought a website domain, but I haven't done anything yet. BrianHugsTrees.com.
I bought Environmental Coffee House and never did a goddamn thing with it either.
I like it. I'm not drinking any coffee right now, though. I'm happy that that's okay. Could you imagine how wired I would be if I was having coffee?
They know I'm wired with or without coffee. And usually I drink coffee, and the big joke is that I always have a brown tongue because I put mushrooms in my coffee. There, it's like anti-inflammatory mushrooms, so I always have a brown tongue, and I say that every show because I go like this, and they say, "Oh, she has a brown tongue."
You just made me think like, oh shit, I really should have checked my teeth before I went on video. I didn't even consider that.
Your teeth look fine.
Anything? Oh my god,
I know, right?
Did
but
I have a poppy seed bagel earlier?
Well, Brian Bela says Brian sure feels like a part of the family.
That's nice. Thank you.
Guys, don't forget, if you have not subscribed, that everybody here should be subscribed. That would be great. And also don't forget that I'm going to be your shameless grifter of the moment, and don't forget to do our buy me a coffee. I'm not monetized, and I had a big meltdown over the fact that somebody made a big deal out of that for me, so it pissed me off, but that's the shit that happens. Courtney says, thank you. Hi, Courtney, darling. I always love seeing Courtney. I see her on other chats because we watch some of the same stuff. She's wonderful. She's wonderful. Brian, your passion is great. And Jean's like, thank you for your passion, your veganism, your love of the planet. Brian, do you want to give your last name?
No.
It's in your
Brian Hugs Trees.
Yeah, it's also in your presentation, so
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. And don't worry about it. Nobody's going to come knocking at your door. Everyone knows.
Are you kidding?
My name.
I've gotten hate mail. So I've written letters to the editor, and I've gotten hate mail.
No
Dear
shit.
delusional, right? I swear. So I'm doing something right, but yeah.
Well, everybody knows
Brian
me. They know
Brian
where I
Trees.
live. They know not to fuck with me.
Well, if anybody really wants to come find me, if you're really clever enough to figure it out, you could figure it out. But you could come find me.
Okay. Here it is.
Yeah, that's right.
His middle name is Hugs, and your last name is Trees.
I was just trying to be tough for a minute, and then you pointed out that my middle name is Hugs.
Right. Hey, listen, we did a show where I got my divorce was final, and I was saying to everybody, okay, what should be my name? Sandy Blue Ocean? Should I change it to Sandy Arctic? Do I keep the same name? Obviously, I kept the same name. I'm lazy. I was like, do I change? Do I change? But anyway, this was great. Oh, well, lightning rod already hacked into your bathroom.
What?
I'm going to have to do another flush. He's only kidding. All right, guys, listen. I don't even know what I did for the end. I don't even know if I have an ending video. I probably don't. So,
no?
I don't remember if, let me see, while we're talking, I'll just choose a file to play for the end. So why don't you say what you'd like for the end while I'm looking for the ending video? Okay, how's that?
Okay, I wasn't really prepared for an ending statement, but
Well, make your
okay.
ending
Thank you
statement,
for
babe.
having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope to be back soon. Again, look me up, Brian Hugs Trees, if you're interested in advocating for, for hemp or taking any climate action. I'm in North Jersey. So have a good night.
All right, guys. We love you all. And we will see you Friday night with Jennifer. So I will find the video, and I just lost I have a habit of talking out loud when I'm trying to find shit or I lose shit. I do it all the time. You try to be so professional on this with the push button shit and everything else, and it never works. Good night.